Arminius, the ambush that destroyed 3 Roman legions, Rome's worst nightmare. The year is 9 AD. The place is the Teutoburg Forest, a dark, swampy, rain-soaked wilderness in northern Germany. 3 Roman legions, the 17th, the 18th, and the 19th, are marching through a narrow pass between a steep tree-covered hill and an impassable bog. The legions are commanded by Publius Quinctilius Varus, a trusted friend of the Emperor Augustus. Varus has with him nearly 20,000 Roman soldiers, plus camp followers, women, children, slaves, and pack animals. The column stretches for nearly 10 miles. The rain is falling in sheets. The ground is slippery mud. The trees block the light, turning day into twilight. The soldiers are tired, wet, and miserable. They are marching through a forest that seems to hate them. But they are not afraid. They are Romans. They have conquered Gaul, Spain, Greece, and North Africa. What could a few angry Germans do to the greatest army on earth? What Varus does not know is that the man he trusts most, a Germanic prince named Arminius, who has served as a Roman officer, who has been granted Roman citizenship, who has ridden with the Roman cavalry, has been building a trap for 3 years. Arminius knows Roman tactics, Roman weapons, Roman weaknesses. He has united dozens of Germanic tribes that normally hate each other. He has chosen this forest, this path, this weather, this moment. And today he will spring the trap. The Roman legions will march into the pass. The Germans will rise from the forest. They will not fight a battle. They will fight a slaughter. When the sun sets, 3 Roman eagles will be lost. 20,000 Romans will lie dead in the mud. The Emperor Augustus will tear his robes, smash his head against the palace doors, and scream for months, "Quinctilius Varus, give me back my legions." Rome will never again try to conquer Germany. The Rhine will become the permanent frontier of the Roman Empire, and Arminius, the barbarian who was raised in Rome, who wore the Roman toga, who was trained in the Roman art of war, will become the greatest enemy Rome ever faced. This is the story of Arminius, the ambush that destroyed 3 Roman legions, Rome's worst nightmare. To understand Arminius, you must first understand the world he came from. Germania, in the time of Augustus, was a wild, forested land east of the Rhine River. The Germanic tribes were not the organized kingdoms of later centuries. They were scattered clans, Cherusci, Chatti, Marsi, Bructeri, Sugambri, and dozens more, who fought each other as often as they fought outsiders. They had no cities, no written laws, no coinage. They lived in wooden huts, raised cattle, and worshipped gods in sacred groves. Their warriors fought on foot, with long spears and small shields. They were fierce, independent, and impossible to conquer by conventional means. The Romans had tried. Julius Caesar had raided across the Rhine, but had not stayed. Augustus, the first Roman emperor, wanted to push the frontier east to the Elbe River, which would shorten the border and add new lands to the empire. He sent his stepson Drusus on a series of campaigns from 12 to 9 BC. Drusus pushed deep into Germany, built forts, and forced some tribes to become allies. But Drusus died in a fall from his horse. His brother Tiberius continued the campaigns. By 7 AD, the Romans believed that Germania was almost pacified. They had built roads, founded towns, and imposed Roman law on the tribes near the Rhine. They were wrong. The Germans had not surrendered. They were waiting. And they had a leader. Arminius was born into the Cherusci tribe around 18 BC. His father, Segamirus, was a chieftain. As a boy, Arminius was sent to Rome as a hostage, a common practice to ensure tribal loyalty. In Rome, he was educated, trained in Latin, and inducted into the Roman cavalry. He fought for Rome in the campaigns in the Balkans, earning Roman citizenship and the rank of equus knight. He was trusted, respected, and decorated. But he never forgot who he was. He watched the Romans build forts on Germanic land. He watched them impose taxes, conscript young men, and treat his people as inferiors. He watched and waited. In 7 AD, he returned to Germania as an officer in the auxiliary forces attached to Varus's army. Varus, the governor of Germania, was a typical Roman aristocrat, arrogant, ambitious, and utterly blind to the hatred he inspired. He administered the province like a conquered territory, demanding tribute, settling disputes with Roman courts, and punishing disobedience with crucifixion. The German chieftains seethed. They came to Arminius. They asked him, "Will you lead us?" Arminius said, "Yes." For 2 years he plotted. He traveled to every tribe, building a coalition. He chose the battlefield, the Teutoburg Forest, a narrow pass between the Calcrease Hill and a vast marsh miles from any Roman fort. He chose the weather. Autumn, when the rains would turn the trail to mud and make it impossible for the Roman artillery to move. He chose the signal, a series of small attacks on Roman outposts designed to draw Varus into the forest. And then he waited for Varus to make a mistake. In the summer of 9 AD, Varus was at his summer camp near the Rhine River. He received reports of a rebellion in the distant tribes. He decided to march his 3 legions west to suppress it. Arminius, who was with Varus, offered to go ahead with his Germanic auxiliaries to scout the route. Varus agreed. As soon as Arminius was out of sight, he rode to his own people and gave the order. The tribes would attack at dawn. Varus marched his legions into the forest. The Roman army was not built for ambush. A Roman legion on the march was a long, vulnerable column. In front went the engineers marking the route. Behind them came the baggage train, wagons full of supplies, tents, ammunition, and the personal belongings of the officers. Then came the legions themselves, each of 6,000 men marching in loose formation. At the rear came more baggage, more camp followers, and a small rear guard. The whole column stretched for miles. The Romans had scouts, but the forest was so thick that the scouts could see only a few yards. The Germans did not need to hide. The forest hid them. The first attacks came from the trees. Lightly armed German warriors threw javelins at the Roman column, then vanished into the woods. The Romans tried to pursue, but the Germans knew the trails. The Romans tried to ignore the attacks, but the attacks kept coming. Varus ordered his men to form a marching camp, a fortified position where they could regroup. The Germans melted away. Varus resumed the march. The forest grew denser. The rain began to fall. The trail turned to mud. The wagons stuck. The soldiers, tired and wet, struggled to push the wheels free. The Germans attacked again. This time, they came in force. They rolled boulders down the hillsides onto the column. They felled trees across the path. They shot arrows from behind every trunk. The Romans could not see their enemy. They could only see their friends falling. For 3 days, the nightmare continued. The Battle of the Teutoburg Forest was a catastrophe on a scale Rome had not experienced since the Battle of Cannae 200 years earlier. But unlike Cannae, which Rome avenged, Teutoburg was never avenged. The Romans tried. In 15 AD, the general Germanicus, the grandson of Augustus, led a massive expedition into Germany. He found the battlefield. He wrote a description that chills the blood. The skulls of Roman soldiers nailed to the trees, their bones bleaching in the sun, their armor scattered across the marsh, the altar where the Germans had sacrificed Roman officers to their gods. Germanicus buried the bones. He recovered one of the 3 eagles. He fought a series of battles against Arminius, winning some, losing others. He came close to capturing Arminius, but the German prince escaped through a swamp. In 16 AD, Tiberius, now emperor, ordered Germanicus to withdraw. The cost of pacifying Germany was too high. The Rhine would be the border. Rome had given up. Arminius had won. But Arminius did not enjoy his victory for long. He had united the German tribes through his leadership and his hatred of Rome. But once the Roman threat was gone, the tribes returned to their old ways, fighting each other. Arminius tried to become king of all Germany. He was opposed by his own uncle, Sergestus, who had always been loyal to Rome. Sergestus had offered to betray Arminius to Varus before the battle. Varus had refused. Now, Sergestus fought Arminius openly. Arminius's wife, Thusnelda, was captured by the Romans and paraded through Rome in chains. Arminius fought on. In 21 AD, he was assassinated by members of his own tribe chieftains who feared his ambition. He was about 37 years old. The man who had destroyed 3 Roman legions was killed by his own people. The Cherusci soon fell back under Roman influence. The dream of a united, independent Germany died with Arminius. But the legend did not die. The Romans never forgot him. The Germans never forgot him. In the 19th century, during the rise of German nationalism, Arminius, under his Latinized name Hermann, became a national hero. A massive statue, the Hermannsdenkmal, was built in the Teutoburg Forest overlooking the site of the battle. He stands there today, sword raised, looking toward the Rhine, Rome's worst nightmare, frozen in bronze. So what can we learn from Arminius? First, that intelligence wins wars. Arminius did not defeat the Romans with a better army. He did not have a better army. He defeated them with information. He knew Roman tactics, Roman weapons, Roman psychology. He knew that Varus was arrogant and impatient. He knew that the legions were vulnerable on the march. He knew the forest, the weather, the terrain. He used that knowledge to create a trap that the Romans could not escape. Second, that unity is strength. The Germanic tribes had spent centuries fighting each other. They had no common identity, no common purpose. Arminius gave them one: hatred of Rome. He persuaded the Cherusci, the Marsi, the Bructeri, and others to lay aside their feuds and fight together. That unity, however temporary, was enough to destroy the world's greatest army. Third, that victory is not enough. Arminius won the battle. He won the war. Rome never conquered Germany, but he could not hold his coalition together. The tribes returned to their old rivalries. He was assassinated by his own people. Winning is hard. Building something that lasts is harder. Arminius could destroy. He could not create. Fourth, that the best weapon against an empire is patience. The Romans were impatient. They wanted quick conquests, easy victories. Arminius waited. He spent years building his coalition, choosing his ground, waiting for Varus to make a mistake. Patience is not passive. It is active. It is the art of preparing while others rush. Arminius mastered that art. Fifth, that betrayal is complicated. Arminius is remembered as a traitor to Rome. He was a Roman citizen. He wore the Roman uniform, he took Roman pay, and then he turned on Rome. But was he a traitor? He was never Roman by blood. He was a hostage who was educated and used by Rome. His loyalty was to his own people, who were being crushed by Roman taxes and Roman law. One person's traitor is another person's freedom fighter. Arminius reminds us that loyalty is not simple. It depends on where you stand. Today, you can visit the site of the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest. The Calcrease Hill is now a museum and archaeological park. Excavations have found Roman coins, weapons, armor, and the bones of soldiers. You can walk the narrow path between the hill and the bog. You can see the wall that the Germans built, a low earthwork hardly impressive, but deadly. You can stand where Varus fell. The forest is quieter now. The bogs have been drained. But on a rainy autumn day, you can still feel it. The fear, the chaos, the slaughter. The ghosts of the 17th, 18th, and 19th legions are still there, still marching, still waiting for an order that will never come. And somewhere in the shadows, Arminius is watching. The man who was raised in Rome and destroyed Rome. The prince who united Germany for a single bloody moment. The ambusher who taught the greatest empire on earth that some forests cannot be conquered. Arminius, Rome's worst nightmare, and one of the most brilliant military minds in history. His name means great in an old Germanic tongue. He earned it. 3 legions earned it. The forest earned it. And 2,000 years later, we still remember. We remember because the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest changed the world. If Arminius had lost, the Romans would have conquered Germany. The Rhine would not be the border. The German language, the German culture, the German people, they might have been assimilated, Latinized, erased. The entire history of Europe would be different. But Arminius won. Germany remained free. The Roman Empire stopped at the Rhine. And the man who stopped it was a barbarian prince who wore a Roman toga. That is the story of Arminius, the ambush that destroyed 3 Roman legions, Rome's worst nightmare, and a legend that will never fade.